thank you guys very much for joining me today for this look at magic and hypnosis. Now I know you're 3 days in, so you already know that hypnosis is not magic. Hypnosis is science, and hypnosis is a well thought out plan, etc. But today we're going to play with a little bit of the magic of the language that you'll be able to use in hypnosis. So let's start with a game, because I really like to make hypnosis fun and I really like to play games. I play a lot of games with my clients, so I'd like to start out with a game with you guys today. So just do what I do. Put your hand up like this. That's right, good. Make a circle with your thumb and first finger. Look at your circle. Look back at me. Now bring that circle to your chin. Isn't your chin down here?
No, I gotta tell you, we did this and you forgot.
Yeah, I forgot.
You guys have done this already and it still worked. Is that right? Thank you for playing along. Now, there was some magic involved there. It seemed like a trick, but it really wasn't a trick. So let me show you what we did. I said to you, because you've come here to learn something, and so you're paying close attention to me, right? So I already have you in the student trance, right? So you were paying attention to me, and I said, do what I do. As soon as you accepted that suggestion, do what I do, put your hand up like this. As soon as you accepted that suggestion, do became the magic word. We're going to talk about magic words and language patterns and the magic here in a moment. It became magic because do is a very active thing. And when I said, do what I do, you accepted that suggestion and you put your hand up like that. Okay, cool. You're giving a signal to the rest of your brain, to the subconscious, that it doesn't really have to pay any attention to anything but the visual input right now, because you agreed to do what I do. You can throw out listening to what I say. You can throw out feeling anything. All you have to do to comply or to go along with that is do what I do. So we played a little bit. Put your hand up like that. Make a circle. Look at your circle. Look back at me. You were complying with all of that. I was watching you. And as you complied, I went ahead and gave you the suggestion to put your circle to your chin. You had canceled out all the listening processes because you agreed to do what I do. So we all know that our chin is down here, but you were watching me. You were monkey see, monkey doing with me. Or you had experienced it before and you were just going along. Either way, you were very compliant and I appreciate that. But that's why that particular magic works. Because you accepted, I didn't do anything to you. I didn't magically do anything to you. I didn't give you any kind of formal induction or anything like that. I just was aware of where we are in our relationship. And that's one of the things I want to pass along today too, is that hypnosis is very much predicated on the relationship, on the hypnotic dance, on the rapport that you have with your hypnotist. And I'm a firm believer that that's what hypnosis is all about, that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. We can accept any suggestion that we want, and those suggestions can work for us as long as we are in that hypnotic dance. So I do a lot of things with my clients where I discover who they are, what they want, what their goals are, what their limiting beliefs are, and I take a lot of notes as I'm taking down that information. And then from there, I can work with them wide awake, because hypnosis can be eyes closed or wide awake. I work with them wide awake to make some belief changes, and then we solidify it in that formal hypnotic trance. So it's the magic that we're kind of talking about here today, the magic that you can use with your language. And I've written a book, I'm sure Cheryl's talked to you about it, Magic Words and Language Patterns. And this book is an introduction to Ericksonian language patterns or to NLP language patterns. You can certainly get much more in-depth, much more complex views. And if you fall in love with magic words and language patterns, I suggest that you do read Richard Bandler's Transformations. because it really goes in depth to all kinds of things you can do with language. Richard Bandler's Transformations. But I also want to let you know that I started out there. When I took an NLP course, I started out there. And it was so complicated, I almost gave it up because it was truly, I felt like I had to be an English major in order to accomplish it. I took a lot more NLP education, and I learned a lot more about the language, and I realized that it can be chunked down to the simplest forms. And so that's what this book is about. It's about the introduction, or the chunking down into the very simplest forms of how language can augment what we do in hypnosis and really break through resistance. You've probably already heard about or talked about that critical factor, or that critical faculty, some people call it, that resistance, that I like to call it the yabbit factor. Yeah, but this, yeah, but that, yeah, but, right? The yabbit factor, those limiting beliefs. So we can cut through those. That's what we want to do, is cut through those so we can help our clients get on that path to success, the most success that they can possibly have. So as we talk to our clients in desultory conversation, we can use magic words and language patterns, but you don't have to even practice it on your clients. You can practice this on telemarketers who call your house. You can practice this on clerks in a checkout line. You can practice this on your family, your friends. Wouldn't it be nice to just practice every day getting the things that you want, or helping guide somebody toward a goal? I have a student who is also a bartender and waitress, and we were working on the language patterns. If, then, if you do this, then this will happen. That's a language pattern. It's not on this handout that you have today, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more here. If, then, if you do this, then you will get that. So you can use that with a weight loss client, or somebody who wants to exercise more, let's say. If they want to get healthy through exercise, if you exercise more, you'll get healthy. Then you get healthy. If you, you can take whatever their goals are and apply that. As I've mentioned, we're talking to them early on about what their goal is, what their limiting beliefs are, what they want to do. And so if a client comes into me and says, help me exercise more. Well, that word more is kind of tricky, because it's already telling me through their language that they're exercising some already. What would more be? If I just give them the suggestion, exercise more, that's not really specifying it down to a real goal for their subconscious mind to help them with automatically. So I'm going to ask them what more means. And when would they actually exercise? You see, I don't like to be the wizard or the answer man. I don't have all of their answers for them. I'm not the smartest human being on the planet, but I'm a good listener. I'm one of the best listeners on the planet. And so I listen carefully to them and ask them, okay, when will you exercise? You see, if I told them, get up and exercise first thing in the morning, their response, either out loud or in their head, might be, no, I'm not doing it first thing in the morning. Well, I don't want to set up that disconnect with my client by having them saying no to me right away. So I'm not going to issue a suggestion right away, as in get up and exercise first thing in the morning. I'm going to ask them, when might you do more exercise? Or I might ask them first, when do you already exercise, and what more do you want to do? So they have to tell me specifically what it is they're willing to do and what it is they plan to do. So they say they want to exercise more. Okay, how much more? How much do you exercise already? Well, I go to the gym once a week. Well, how much more do you want to do? If they say, I want to go to the gym 3 times a week, great. We're still not specific enough. When do you plan to go to the gym? Well, right now they might say, I go to the gym on the weekends. It's the only time I have time. Okay, if that's the only time you have time, when are you going to go more? They may come back to me and say, well, I really could get up on Tuesday and Thursday because I go into work late those days. I really could get up on Tuesday and Thursday and go to the gym on Tuesday and Thursday. Well, is that what you are willing to do? Is that what you want to do? Yes. That's what I'm going to do. So you are going to exercise once on the weekend, and you're going to get up and exercise on Tuesday, Thursday, whatever 2 days they choose. Now we've got a plan. Now we've got a direct suggestion that we can give them. So your plan is to exercise 3 times a week, once on the weekend and on those 2 days that were mentioned. Now we can plug that information in. If you exercise 3 days a week, once on the weekend and on Tuesday and Thursday, then you will get whatever your benefit is, whatever benefit they issued. So I'm going to ask them, what's that going to do for you? When you're exercising more, what is that going to do for you? Well, it will help me lose weight. It will help me get healthy. It will help me trim up, whatever they say. I'm not going to give, I don't know what it's going to do for them. They know. So they'll give me that answer. Then I can plug that information into the if-then language pattern, and it lowers resistance because I'm giving them back what they already told me they can do. Rather than set up resistance, because what I was telling you first is if I just issued a suggestion, they might resist. No, that's not the way my life works. I can't do it that way. I couldn't possibly have known with this fictional client I'm talking about that, say, Tuesday and Thursday were the days that they go into work late and they could exercise on those mornings. But since they told me that, and if they agree to do that, then we can include that in the suggestions we give them, and there's no resistance to it because it's their plan to begin with. And that's really what we're looking for in successful hypnosis, is to discover not something they can't do, but something they can do, something they are willing to do. And we can discover all of that in our pre-talk if we're just talking to them. So Cheryl, go ahead and hand out those handouts if you'd like to. And let's look over, let's get down to some of these magic words and find out why they're magical and how they cut through that resistance, how they get through that critical factor or faculty, as it's called.
Take one and pass it around. And here's the book, Magic Word. I knew I brought it up. And I have to say that this year, when we were at the IAC conference, that they gave out all these awards and all these guys got awards, and Karen received the Pen and Quill Award for this book. So out of all the books that they read and kept looking over what they were going to give, who they were giving an award to, they gave this award to Karen for Magic Words and Language Patterns. Whoops. Great book.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. It was thrilling. It really was. I certainly didn't expect it, but it was definitely thrilling. And what I like best, I also didn't expect it to be a bestseller in 7 countries. And it's a really big hypnosis seller, which I'm very pleased about. But I think part of it is because of the simplicity. Now, the handout I gave you is not everything that's in the book, but this is a really good start. And let's look at some of these words that we use every day. One of the reasons this is so simple is because this is the way we talk anyway. And the subconscious mind, that critical factor, that yabbit factor, doesn't put up the roadblock as often because it sounds like we're just talking, like we're having conversation. And we are. So let's have some conversation. So if you look at your handout, the top 20 magic change words and patterns: easily, naturally, and unlimited. Those words soften whatever comes after it. Now you can use these words and what we're talking about today in already prepared scripts. You can use it in the Elman induction. You can use it in progressive relaxation. You can use it in actual conversation. So think about those words. As you think about those words, you can easily see how it is something that you don't even really pay attention to. Those words, easily, naturally, and unlimited. You see, the conscious mind, our beta waves, are looking for the subject and the verb in the sentence. That's the most important thing. We're not necessarily taking in all of the information we're given at all times. You experienced it a few minutes ago. When you, on purpose, shut out all of the auditory input that was coming into you when you agreed to do what I do, right? Then all of the auditory words, the clue words you would have had, put your circle to your chin. Well, the clue would have been put it there, but many of you went right here because you just canceled out that auditory input. So the subconscious mind is hearing everything. It's responding to everything. It's taking into account everything. We're taking into account everything that's coming into us at the moment. You're seeing me on the video screen. You're seeing people sitting next to you. You're seeing other things in the room. You're seeing the lights. You're feeling the air temperature. You're feeling what you're sitting on firmly underneath you. You're feeling the ground underneath your feet, but you're not paying any attention to that right now. Because right now you're focused on learning and listening to this. You are in the learning trance, by the way. We're always in some sort of trance or another at all times. If you go into class, you're in the classroom trance. If you go out on a date with your boyfriend, you're in the boyfriend trance. And David, maybe that would be girlfriend for you. I'm not sure. I'm not imposing on you. But if you go out with your favorite person, you're in your friend trance. If you are with your children, you're in the parent trance, and those are different trance states. But we go in and out of those very naturally and normally all the time. We're always in one trance state or another. And we're always responding to the input that's coming into us. But we're never responding to all of it at once consciously. The subconscious mind is keeping track of everything that we need to keep track of, and the rest of it it's kind of putting aside. I'll bet that you weren't paying attention at all. But now, simply because I mention it, you can clearly feel what you're sitting on pushing up into your butt. But a minute ago, you weren't paying any attention to that. Now you can feel yourself connected to the sofa or the chair or whatever it is you're sitting on, right? But the subconscious mind kept track of that. Your conscious mind didn't have to. The conscious mind is too limited. It can only hold about 7 pieces of information at any one time. So the conscious mind can't be keeping track of all of that stuff. By the way, it can only focus on one thing at a time. It can keep track of about 7, maybe less, but can only focus on one thing at a time. So as you're focusing on one thing, all of that other stuff is out of conscious awareness, completely out of conscious awareness. Easily, naturally, and unlimited, and words like that, go in to the subconscious mind and don't even stop to be registered by the conscious thinking part, because it's looking for the subject and the verb. You can easily exercise more now because you have decided to do it, because you have made the decision to do it. We'll get to that, the cause word, in just a moment. That's my most favorite. I'll tip you off to that one in a moment. As you're working with your clients, as you're working with any script, you can easily drop in some of these words that slip through the conscious resistance naturally, because it sounds like it's natural conversation, and your ability to do so becomes unlimited. As you're just talking your way through it, you're doing some patter along the way. Those words just slip right on in automatically. Automatically is another one that goes under that category. It just softens whatever happens with it. The next 3, aware, realize or realizing, and experience or experiencing. Whatever you tell your client, they will. Realize that what I'm telling you makes sense because it's natural and automatic anyway. It's just conversation. Be aware that when you use these words, you are directing your client to do something in particular. And as they're experiencing what you're saying, they become even deeper in trance. Now let's stop there for just a moment and look at the word realize and the word realizing. Just to yourself for a moment, say to yourself, realize, or experience is even, let's use experience for a moment. I experience trance. Just say that to yourself for a moment. I experience trance. Just notice how that feels for a moment. I experience trance. Now say to yourself, I am experiencing trance. I am experiencing trance. Did you notice a difference? I'd actually like to go to the room if you don't mind. Christy, did you notice a difference between experience and experiencing?
Sure.
Did you, I think I heard you say sure.
Yes, I'm not really sure.
Oh, you're not really sure. Okay. Jessica, did you happen to notice a difference?
Yeah, when you said I experienced trance, I automatically thought of something in the past or something in the future. When you say experiencing, it's just right now what's happening right this moment.
Isn't that interesting? For Jessica, it was when I experienced, it took her into some hypnotic time travel, past and future, right? And when she said, I'm experiencing, it made it for her in the now. The ing words have a tendency to have movement to them. So if I ask you to realize something, realize this right now. As you are realizing how much sense this really makes, you can understand how this will work for you as you roll this over into your scripts, as you roll this over into your hypnotic pattern, as you continue to use this moving forward. So an ing word kind of gives it movement or fluidity. There's neither a right or wrong, good or bad. I'm not telling you to use one or the other. I'm just saying notice that as you are directing your client to do something, as they are noticing the difference it might make, an ing could have either a lyrical bent to it, or it can have a movement bent to it. It can mean something different to your client. I asked Jessica what it meant to her. Christy wasn't exactly sure, and that's perfectly okay. I'm not asking you to be sure, but Jessica had a different feeling to it. Your clients will all be different. Unless you are psychic, you can't predict how they might react, but you can watch. You can be present with them. You can pay attention to them, and you can notice what is working with them as they move forward. So I added an ing to actually a verb there, right, is working with them. And that also gave it movement. The embedded command there is, this is working for you.
Yeah, I would say the exact same thing. If you use as, saying this is working for you. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So we hit a bunch of magic there, didn't we? Let's move to the next ones. Expanding, beyond, causes the subconscious mind to think of space. Where is this happening? We're moving beyond any limits in your mind. We're expanding your view of what this might be. We're expanding this out. We're making it bigger, moving beyond the limits of what it might have been. So as you begin now to exercise more, you go beyond the limits of once a week and move into 3 times a week, keeping your weekend exercise and adding now Tuesdays and Thursdays first thing in the morning, because you will feel better, because you're healthy, because this is what you want. So we went back to that old exercising line and just added some magic to it that gave us something to patter with, gave us something to talk about. We didn't have to make anything up. We used our clients' thoughts, our clients' ideas, and we folded those over into some of these language patterns or thoughts, or these magic words. So the next grouping, before, begin, during, after, and now, causes the subconscious mind to think of time. Before you begin using these language patterns, allow yourself to believe in the magic that they bring to your process. After you begin using these language patterns now, you'll notice how easy it is to create hypnotic pattern around the information your client has given you. I'm just stringing some of these words together to include what we've been talking about. Now, begin to realize that this is really just a game. It's a word game that we're playing. And we may play with this just a little bit more in a moment so that you get even better, as we get through these words, so that you get an even better idea of what we're talking. My favorite of all the magic words is because. Because it works. Because is such an interesting word, because everything that comes after that word because is believed. This isn't even just hypnosis. This is with anything. And we grow up listening to this, we grow up hearing this, and we grow up naturally believing it. Back in the 70s at Harvard, there was a very cool study. There was a sociologist, professor, who wanted to find out, she was studying human nature, and she wanted to find out about what would get people to do things. If people would do things just because they're asked. And so she had her interns go to the library. In the library at Harvard back in the 70s, there was one copy machine. These are the olden days, remember. There was one copy machine, and during certain times of the year, midterms and essay times, that copy machine line got really long, and people were there all trying to make copies. So the sociologist had her interns go out. They were doing a real study, so there were 3 parts to this study. The first part was they had to go out to that line at the copy machine and go up to the front, toward the front, and say, "May I cut? Can I cut in?" Well, about 64% of the people in that line let their fellow students cut in. That's a lot for a busy student body there at Harvard. About 64% of the people let them cut in. Their second job was to go in with a reason. May I cut in because I'm running late? May I cut in because I'm running late? You know what? Adding that reason, 95% of the people let them cut in line. So the third part of that study was to give them something just stupid to say after the because. Can I cut in because I need to make copies? That's ridiculous. Everybody in that line needed to make copies or they wouldn't have been in the copy line, right? So the third part was to say, may I cut in because I need to make copies? 94% of people let them cut in. 95% with a real reason and 94% with a completely fabricated, silly reason. And what was discovered is that word because cuts through that resistance, because we tend to believe everything that comes after that word. The conscious mind lets it slip right on through, lets the reason slip right on through, because the conscious mind, the analytical objector, is always looking for a reason for stuff. I want to cut. Why do you want to cut in? Because I need to make copies. Oh, okay, go ahead then. It sounds completely ludicrous, does it not? But it works. Because that magic word because gives a reason. So you can use this in hypnotic pattern in a variety of ways. It doesn't matter if you're using age regression or you're using direct suggestion or you're using a script. When you use that word because, it's going to have some impact. As you find yourself exercising now 3 times a week without fail, you're discovering how good it feels because this is what you want. Consider that a flimsy reason if you want to with your conscious mind, but as you're working with a client, because this is what you want is exactly the truth. It is what they want, or they wouldn't have told you that. You would be working on that goal. And now that you've had this experience today, you will find it easy to make these changes because it's what you want. Or because you've had this experience today, you can easily and automatically make these changes in your life because it's important to you. And you know the truth. Hypnosis works. So I don't know if you've picked up on the fact yet that I haven't really said very much. I'm doing some hypnotic pattern, but all of you are making your own decisions in your own mind as we go through this today, because that's what happens anyway. You can't make your client do anything they don't want to do. You can't make them process in any particular way. They are going to process their own information and they're going to process it in their own way. Earlier, Christy wasn't having as much of a reaction as Jessica was having to the ing words. But when I asked a couple of questions, now I know that about those 2 clients or 2 people in the class, right? And so as we gather information, we can add information to our pattern, and we can begin to work with them on their goals, reframing their limiting beliefs and making them work. Because it's what they want. And after all, they believe in hypnosis, or they wouldn't have come to a hypnotist to help them get to what they wanted, right? So because is a very magical word, because it works, because everything that follows it is a reason, and the reason just goes right on in automatically. The word but, tiny little word, but boy, does it have some power. But is the massive destroyer in a sentence. But annihilates everything that came before it. It just erases everything that came before it. That little bitty word, but. Man, this was driven home to me when I was a kid. When I was a little kid, in grade school, my teachers on my report card would always write, now this was the olden days again, when we still had handwritten report cards. And my teachers would often write on the report card, I'm an only child. So when my parents passed away, they had saved everything I ever did. So I was able to look at all of these report cards from grade school. And on several of them, the teachers wrote, Karen was a good student, but she talks too much. I read that and I had to laugh, because when I was a kid, I got in trouble for talking too much at school a lot. Because those teachers were setting me up, right? They put that magic word but in there and didn't know the damage they were doing. My mother never saw the part about she's a really good student, but she talks too much. All of that really good student stuff was just erased, annihilated. My mother only focused on, but she talks too much. So I always got in trouble for talking. After I graduated from college, I had a 30-year career in radio. I was a radio personality on a Chicago radio station. And I often wanted to go back to teachers who always got me in trouble for talking too much and saying, hey, that talking thing kind of paid off for me, didn't it? When I compared W-2 forms with them at that point. But that's a different story too. That but though got me into an awful lot of trouble because it canceled out all the stuff about being a good student. So how are you going to use that in hypnosis? That magic word, but. Now you can resist what I'm telling you, but wouldn't it be easier to just close your eyes and go into the trance of enjoyment with unlimited possibilities of having this work for you? American words. While we're there, it's not on this list, but and is the great multiplier, because and then adds on everything that happens after it. If you hear a lot of hypnotic patter or hypnotic scripts, you may notice a lot of ands linking things. And you can do this, and you can do that, and you can do this. I'm not sure if you'll decide to go into hypnosis quickly or slowly, but you know how to do it easily and naturally for yourself. So I threw out something there about I'm not sure how you're going to do it, with the presupposition that you are going to go into hypnosis. And I put out there first, I'm not sure how you will go into hypnosis, but you decide to just let go and go into hypnosis now, or go into trance now. So but and and are the two good contractions. One deletes everything, one adds everything. Now, commands are a very interesting thing. If you look at the handout, it'll say, relax completely now, as an example, or go into trance. Those are direct commands. And they can hold in and of themselves some resistance if your client is fearful, or if your client is not ready to yet, or your client doesn't know what they're doing yet. But you can soften it by saying something like, it doesn't matter how quickly you go into trance. All that matters is you begin to relax completely now. Now, there were two direct suggestions in there. Go into trance and relax completely now. But when I couch those or embed those direct suggestions into some pattern, it's a little softer for the client, for the recipient to take in. Hypnosis, at least in my view of it, is not something that we do to a client. It's something that we do together. And hypnosis is the heightened state of receptivity. I'm not even a big fan of the heightened state of suggestibility because that can be construed as gullibility, and gullibility and hypnosis are not the same. But the heightened state of receptivity means when you're receptive, when you are amenable to receiving something, it's easy and automatic for you to do so. So you can do that same kind of thing as you're working with your clients doing the dance. Embed the suggestions into the pattern and into these words that make it easier to go down. The stop, don't pattern is an interesting one. Stop thinking and take action now. Stop getting in your own way and do what it is you've decided to do for yourself, because you'll be healthy and feel good. I strung some things together from my hypothetical client in my head and made that a suggestion, turned that into a script, so to speak. Stop talking to yourself and realize you can easily relax now. One way to tell if a client has a lot of inner dialogue, that they're not with you yet, is finger movement. Sometimes if you'll look on the recliner, you'll see the fingers moving a little bit. That can indicate that your client is still doing some internal dialogue. They're still talking to themselves. Their conscious mind is still right there with them. If you notice those finger movements or even a tapping of the foot, can indicate that they're doing some inner dialogue. So you can say something like, stop talking to yourself now and realize you can easily go into that state of relaxation that you've been wanting today. Wouldn't it be nice for you to just relax and let go now? Because this time is all for you. It's all for you, right here and right now, where nobody wants anything, nobody needs anything. This is the time for you to relax because it feels so good. So I took some magic words and some ideas there and threw in the direction that we were going, leading the client to the place where we want them to be. Don't go into trance too quickly is an interesting one. That word don't is a very interesting word because it really is a two-step process. There are some people, there's some schools of thought in hypnosis, and there's no right or wrong answer here. Some people say the subconscious mind doesn't register negatives. All right, you've probably heard this before already, but let's do it anyway. Don't think of a dancing pink elephant. Whatever you do, don't think of a dancing pink elephant. I got to look at you guys while I say that. Don't think of a dancing pink elephant, and don't put purple spots on it. Whatever you do, don't put purple spots on the dancing pink elephant. Okay, what are you doing?
Cute tutu on.
What?
That's such a cute tutu on.
And Cheryl put a tutu on her elephant. She had a positive hallucination. She's creating something that isn't there, and that's a great state of hypnosis. She's creating a positive hallucination. That's perfect. It's really difficult not to do something until you first do it. So here's what it is. It's a two-step dance. That word don't, because first you have to bring the picture up. Right? I told you, don't think of a dancing pink elephant. First, you had to bring up the dancing pink elephant before you could cancel it out. So there are little kids. It's really a hot day in Chicago today, and I think it's hot there and where you guys are too. And there are little kids all over Chicagoland right now sitting in their room in timeout because their mom said, don't slam the door on the way out today. The kid slammed the door and then went, oh man, that's what I wasn't supposed to do. Mom said, get in here, you're on a timeout. You know, mom could have corrected that whole thing if she would have simply said, go out of the door quietly. Because little kids can imagine a million ways to get out of the door quietly. They can tiptoe out the door. They can hold the door as they pull it closed. They could go out a window. That would be quieter at the door, right? They can come up with a billion different ways to get out of the door quietly without being heard. Why bring up something you don't want them to do and then make them cancel it out? It's a two-step process. So that word don't is a very interesting thing. Don't tell them, I know. Don't tell them what you don't want them to do. Tell them what you do want them to do. Or you can say something like what's on your sheet there. Don't go into trance too quickly. Now they might in their own head say, watch me. I'll do this at my own pace. You can't tell me what to do. That's okay. They're rejecting the negative. Or they might be bringing up a picture of going into trance quickly. And that's the picture we want them to have. Don't go into trance too quickly. Go in at your own pace, easily and naturally now, as you find your eyelids getting heavy, your body relaxing, whatever path you want to go down. And you may do progressive relaxation. You may do instant trance building. You can do it in a number of ways. It's not on here, the word imagine, but imagine is another magical word that I'd like you to write down, because we were talking about a two-step canceling out in the subconscious mind of don't. Imagine is a one-step induction. Imagine is a one-step induction. Imagine you're in a refrigerator right now, really, really cold. Can you do that? Imagine, Jessica, right now, you're in a refrigerator. Close your eyes and imagine you're in a refrigerator. It's really cold. All the food around you is very, very cold. Wait, you just moved. What was that?
I literally just shivered a little bit.
You literally just shivered. I want you as a client, Jessica, because you are great. You're a great client. So, you know, we're not doing stage show stuff here, but that's the kind of things they do in a hypnosis stage show. They have people imagine things that they can imagine easily. And that word imagine is a one-step induction, because as soon as you accept it, imagine, all of that critical thinking is out the window, because it's not real. You're just imagining it, and you can make it real for yourself that way. So imagine, I like to call it, it's my one word induction, imagine. The 4-word induction is, anybody know what the 4-word induction is? Lauren, haven't you been certified for a number of years?
Yes. But I don't think I
Do you know the 4-word induction?
know.
It's so easy, you're going to laugh. It's a trick question. I'm not really putting you on the spot. It's a trick question. The 4-word induction is once upon a time.
That's cute. I like that.
Because as soon as you say once upon a time to somebody, what does it cause the subconscious mind to do? Get ready to hear a story. Oh, good. You can become a kid. You can just listen. You can just relax and listen to the story that's being told to you. Once upon a time. And it doesn't have to be real. It's just a story. How cool is that? Those things work like magic because the subconscious mind just goes along with it. The conscious mind doesn't have to reject it, doesn't have to turn it down. There's a process in my book that let's just play with for a moment. So if you're writing, put down whatever you're writing and just play with me here for a moment. Close your eyes. Go ahead and just close your eyes. This is very short, so you can make yourself comfortable if you want, but you don't have to go into any kind of deep trance. Just allow yourself to imagine. You step into Dorothy's red slippers. There you are. It's time to go home. And so you click your heels together 3 times, and you say to yourself, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. And you look there in the mirror and you know it's true. You realize there you are at home with all of your wisdom, all of your experience, all of your life's experiences. Everything you need is in your backyard of experience and knowledge and wisdom. It's all there for you to call upon. Allow yourself to experience your own wisdom now. And as you return back to the room, bring back with you all of your life's experiences, all of the abilities that you have to communicate, to persuade, to hold space, to listen, because it feels so good. Show me back in the room now.
You don't have them yet.
I can see. So that was pretty quick. Just tell me. I can see you kind of rubbing your eyes there. Tell me what you experienced there.
I felt like I went to my house.
So you had an experience in just 1 minute, right? Because we did that process for about a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and you had that experience all by yourself.
Yeah, I went to Brazil. I went to Brazil.
Okay. So, you know, I teach a lot about hypnotic time travel, and we did some hypnotic space travel there because you went right back to Brazil. And the reason that works so quickly and so easily is because, first of all, it's imagined. So it doesn't have to be real. It takes you completely out of any factual realm. You're able to imagine. When we talk about stepping into Dorothy's red slippers, I understand that in some foreign countries, the Wizard of Oz is not as big a metaphor as it is in our country, but in our country, it's huge, and we all know what that means. By the time Dorothy steps into her red slippers, she has already gone through all of the Yellow Brick Road, and she's killed the Wicked Witch, and she's had a lot of life's experiences, and she's about to go home, and she finds everything she needs right there in her home. That's the point. We have everything we already need.
When you said about those slippers, I didn't exactly knew what you were meaning with that, but when you said the word home, it didn't matter. It took me exactly where I needed to go.
You just said the punchline to the whole class. Thank you very much. That was brilliant. I want you to understand exactly what she just told us, okay? Because it never matters what I say. What I say, what the hypnotist says, rarely matters. The client is going to do their own processing anyway. As long as you're paying attention to them, paying attention to what they want, that's a pretty easy one because everybody has a home, right? Everybody has life experiences. And so that was the word that became magic for you right then, because you heard that word and it took you to someplace else. I didn't tell you to go to Brazil. I didn't know that's what you were going to do. There's no way I could have read your mind because I'm not a mind reader, I'm a hypnotist. But leaving that very vague and holding it out there, you could latch on to what was most important for you at the moment. And just having that very short, very quick experience allows you to recognize that everything that you already need, you already have. It's just putting it together and now using it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So Karen,
Yes.
She had no reference to the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
So slippers had no meaning for her.
Right.
But one word that you said that caught her was home.
That's right.
That was a lot less than her 15 hours of flying here.
Right. That's right. You went home, you got a little break, you came back, and you're still in the class. That's a great thing. I'm sorry, say that again.
I got to see my dogs.
Oh, yay! The point is, your client is always going to do their own processing anyway. Your client, you can't make them do something. And we're going to talk in a moment here about metaphor, Metaphor is an important thing, but even when it came to using this metaphor that she didn't have any real reference to, she had a reference to the word home. So the more vague I could leave it, the more avenues I have for my client picking up on something and doing their own processing. So let's move on now to one of the language patterns, the more pattern. The more pattern is probably the most frequently used language pattern of all of them. The more you do this, the more you'll get that. The more blank, the more. So insert a thought and then insert an action. The more, insert a thought, the more you think about improving your health, the more exercise you'll be drawn to do. The more you exercise, the healthier you will be. The more you exercise, the more weight you will lose. When we go back to that reference of the client who wanted to exercise more, the more you exercise 3 days a week, the more you find the scale moving in the direction you'd like it to. If that's what they told us they wanted to do, was exercise and lose weight. The more you exercise, the more your doctor will be impressed when you go in for your annual checkup, if that's what they say they wanted. Now, I don't bring up the doctor reference unless the client says, well, my doctor tells me I need to. Okay, well, that lets me know that when they go back to see their doctor, the doctor's going to be happy, and they're going to be happy about that because they brought that to my attention. The more you think about getting healthy, the more inclined you are to use the stairs. The more you take this action, the more you're likely to get that benefit. Okay? While we're on those language patterns, I'm going to throw out a couple more that aren't on this sheet, then we're going to move on to a couple of other things. One of my favorite language patterns is sooner or later. Sooner or later, everything happens. I use that with smokers, almost every smoker who comes in. When we're having conversation, I'll tell them, you know, sooner or later, everybody quits smoking. I'm glad you're here to quit before smoking takes life away from you. But sooner or later, everybody quits smoking. Now, I get a lot of pushback from that sometimes from people who say, oh my God, you don't tell that to smokers that it's going to kill them. Of course I do. The tobacco companies tell them it's going to kill them. So why not just put that out there on the table? Sooner or later, everybody quits smoking. I'm so glad that you're going to do it while you're still alive. I'm so glad that you're going to do it now before it takes you out. Because there's some truth to that, isn't there? Sooner or later, everything happens. Sooner or later, it becomes so easy for you to get up on Tuesday and Thursday morning to exercise that you won't even remember when you didn't do it. Sooner or later, it becomes a part of your normal routine. And then you leave it to the client to decide whether they want to do it sooner or later, because the presupposition is inevitably you're going to do this thing. Inevitably, it's going to happen for you. Another good language pattern is, I wonder if. I wonder if you will begin exercising 3 times a week immediately starting tomorrow, or if you'll wait till Thursday for that to kick in. The presupposition is it's going to happen. We're just wondering if it's going to happen now or later. I wonder if you will relax easily now, because it's time for you to take a break and make a change for good. Again, I am not really saying anything of direct import to my client. For Aiz a moment ago, I wasn't even speaking her language, and yet she got something out of it because it was so open and so vague. I just trusted that my client was going to be able to do their own processing in their own head. And boy, you came through with flying colors, I got to tell you on that one. So a couple of other language patterns to add to the mix. Now, I am not here to sell you my book. I will tell you that you can use this information and create a lot of scripts, create a lot of suggestions for your clients without ever doing anything else. But if you do look in the book, or if you go to the printable downloads that are included in the book, then you get 2 great handouts of magic words and 10 language patterns that, again, are not the be-all and end-all language patterns. There's some from which you can start. And I'm not pushing for anybody to be on my mailing list, but if you would like to, on a monthly basis, at the first of every month, I send out an additional language pattern. If you would like to be on that, in that mailing to get a new language pattern every month, just send me an email, Karen@KarenHand.com, and I'll add you to that email list. No pressure, but if you'd like to have additional language patterns that even aren't included in the book or in any of my handouts, you can get those once a month by joining that, Karen@KarenHand.com. So now let's look at numbers 19 and 20 on the list that you have. Quotes, attribution to anyone, an expert, a mentor, a client, yourself, all of those become excellent rapport building techniques, and the subconscious mind remembers stories better than hardcore facts. So you may notice already that in the time we've spent together today, I have been incorporated some stories. I quoted to you a study from Harvard back in the 70s. All of those gave impact to what I was telling you. And that slipped right through past that Yabbit factor, that conscious resistance, without any problem. Because you're going to believe a quote. If I give you a quote, that's going to have resonance with you. If I tell you a story, that's going to have resonance with you. There's little resistance to those kinds of things because they make sense. They make sense to your conscious mind. So attributing anything to anybody, an expert, a mentor, a previous client. My students have told me in the past after doing this that I usually have 2 handouts. I do a 10-day class on language patterns and magic words. And they walk away with 10 language patterns and 20 magic words. And my students have told me that they have used nothing else but those 2 sheets of paper to construct their entire hypnotic pattern. That they write scripts from them. They use it, keep them on their desk, and just use it when they're working with clients to ad-lib a script. And that's a wonderful thing. That's a very easy way of creating your hypnotic pattern. Notice what I did there. I quoted past students. I used an attribution. I used a quote. My students have told me. And then went on to give you a suggestion about how to use the language patterns. When I give them a handout of 10 language patterns, they can do it in any way they want to. They can use one language pattern a day or a week until it becomes real fluent for them, or they can just throw them all in and use them all the time. It doesn't make any difference which way they do it. Again, I gave you a suggestion on how to practice using a quote from my past students. And then we move to metaphors and stories. When you give a metaphor or a story, the subconscious mind holds on to that. It will remember that. It will attach to it and have rapport with the story because there's no resistance. It doesn't have anything for them to resist. It's not about them. When I teach about the model of the mind, I'll put it in a framework typically, and there are lots of ways of teaching the model of the mind. There's Melissa Teer's way, where she talks about over here we have the unconscious mind, and here we have the conscious mind that's always coming up to resistance. In hypnosis, we move over that conscious resistor and go right into the subconscious mind, where all the answers really reside. That's one way of talking about it. I have some clients who really want to know about how the mind works, and so I'll use a computer metaphor with those clients. This is a little bit more complicated, but some people like complication. I will tell them that the unconscious mind is like our operating system. The subconscious mind is like our memory card. And the conscious mind is like the keyboard input. It's the here and now, the analytical thinker. That gives them kind of a framework to explain what these things are that we're talking about. We're working in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind holds our beliefs, our values. It holds our personality. And it holds our memories, and the subconscious mind is very fluid. The subconscious mind can change its mind at the drop of a hat, and change can be instant. As an example, back in the olden days, I've talked to you a lot about the olden days here. Back in the olden days, even before my time, back in the olden days, there was a time when people thought the world was flat. Everybody just believed the world was flat. And so they didn't take cruises. They didn't sail off toward the horizon because they were afraid they would fall off. Well, after the Vikings and Columbus sailed around the world or sailed successfully someplace and came back, eventually they realized the earth is actually round. And the moment Columbus got back from his faraway voyage, their belief changed. Oh, we won't fall off the edge. We're fine. And Apple Vacations were born, Viking Cruise Lines born. They booked their first cruise line and people went sailing off into the sunset. It didn't exactly happen that way, but you get the point. The point is our belief can change just like that. It doesn't have to be long and drawn out. It doesn't have to be a big process. A metaphor, a story, a quote can help us reframe our beliefs or change our mind. And once the change is made, it's made across the board. So those are some tricks and tips and techniques for how to use language as you're doing hypnosis. When you're hypnotizing somebody on purpose, it behooves you to have some magic words, some language patterns, some patter that you can use to keep that dance going. It's always a matter of building rapport and then maintaining rapport. And I want to tell you, the other secret about hypnosis, there's no right or wrong way to do it. There are so many schools of thought on hypnosis. There's Ericksonian hypnosis, there's direct suggestion hypnosis, there's the Elman technique. There are so many ways to do it. There is no right or wrong way. Whatever you're most comfortable with is the way that's right for you. Roy Hunter, who's well known for his parts therapy work, was asked one day, what is the right induction to use with a client? And Roy's answer was, surprisingly maybe, the one you know the best and you're the most comfortable with, because it's the one you'll deliver the best. Well, that's true and it's not true. It is true that what you feel the most comfortable with, you will do with ease and authority. But the other truth is you do whatever is best for the client. If the client needs to be told what to do and they need convincers, there's nothing better than the Elman. If your client is instantly ready to make some changes, talking to them can do it, just having conversation. So there's no right or wrong, but the thing to do is learn as much as you can possibly learn, incorporate as much as you can possibly incorporate, and have a big tool chest. Because, you know, you can build a house with just a hammer and nail and some lumber. You could build a house with just lumber and hammer and nails. It might be kind of a funky looking house and it might take a really long time, but you could do it. If you have a full tool chest, if you have screws and a level and ladder and a saw and all sorts of other equipment, a power drill, man, you could build a castle. So that's what I encourage you to do. Put as many tools as you can put into your tool belt, learn as many techniques as you can learn, and then when you have a client, be present with your client. Hold that space, develop rapport, learn as much about your client as you can learn, and then with the information they give you, put it in to your hypnotic pattern, put it into your scripts, put it into what you're doing with them so that you can help them make the changes they've come to you to make. So tell me what your questions are or what else you would like to hear. Participating over there, just let me know. He's off camera. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Just wanted to let you know I'm still aware that you're there.
Thank you.
Any questions, any comments?
I enjoyed it. It was very informal. Thank you.
Good, good. And will you be able to make some use out of this, David?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Now I want to tell you how to practice some of this stuff. Pick some words that you want to throw in or some language patterns. Pick that the more language pattern, or if blank, then blank, and just use them. Use them in your daily routine. So I encourage you to play with this stuff. Mess with people. And I say that in the most positive possible use of the word, okay? Just so you can practice language patterns. I don't always have time to talk to telemarketers, but when I'm in a feisty mood and the phone rings and it's a telemarketer, I will practice all of my language patterns that I know on them until I get them to take me off their calling list. Because the worst thing a telemarketer can go through is having somebody hang on the line with them, because then they can't move on to the next person where they might make a sale. So I will tell them things like, if you're tired of talking to me, then maybe you'll then take me off your calling list and you'll never have to experience this again. This would be the time now to take me off your calling list. I wonder how long it will be before you take me off your calling list. You know, sooner or later, everybody takes me off their calling list because I'm just no fun to hang out with on the phone. It doesn't matter what you say. The goal is to be taken off the calling list, so you just drive that point home. Does that make sense? Practice this, have fun with it, and I encourage you to laugh with it and just play with it, because it's not really serious business. It's fun stuff with words and language.